Okay, apologize for the fact that the week's been kind of messed up a bit. Obviously, the movie reviews was yesterday. We had the BAFTA video on Friday. Ashley wasn't able to be here this week, so we're still good on Versus being the only constant that we have on this channel. I got no issues with that. This is actually one that we came up with, like, literally recently. This was, like a week ago, maybe, I think. And this makes sense for this to be a battle. So that's the reason why it's going to be one, apparently.
There's actually a small reference in Ladder 49. There's like a truck that goes by and you see a name on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the name of the first arson victim in Backdraft.
That's awesome. So basically he already pretty much gave it away with mentioning the title before the title drops, so we're going to go ahead and throw it out there. This is what's going to happen when Backdraft battles Ladder 49. So, of course, that's why Inferno was the cryptic comment for this week. So,
How creative.
Yeah, I know sometimes they're not creative. I get that.
At least you didn't say fire.
I could have, but no.
Beavis.
Yeah, that would have been great. Take it away, Adrian.
Okay. So, you have two movies here that are often, I guess, you know, when Ladder 49 came out, there were a lot of comparisons.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, it would kind of seem like a lopsided battle because you have this really, really beloved movie from 1991 by Ron fucking Howard.
Yes.
And then you have Ladder 49, which was, I believe, pretty well liked when it came out.
Oh, yeah, totally.
But it had kind of a nobody director, and it wasn't, you know, it didn't make the big impact with, you know, in the mainstream that Backdraft did.
True.
A lot of people, I guess, saw it as Backdraft light, more or less. But I actually think they are quite battle-worthy.
Okay.
So let's see how that plays out. Yeah, let's start with Backdraft first.
All right.
So Backdraft begins, and immediately we realize that we have Kurt Russell in a dual role. Because obviously Kurt Russell is the star of this movie, but we open and it's 1971, I think.
Sounds right.
And we see there's little Kurt Russell and there's even smaller little William Baldwin. And their dad is played by Kurt Russell, of course. So I think we know which one of them was the real son of his. So he goes and he decides to take little William Baldwin with him. And little Kurt Russell stays behind, you know, and the little brother gets to go on the thing because the older brother is the one that kind of, you know, really, really wants to do this. It's like a passion that he's going to, you know, follow in his dad's footsteps.
Yeah.
And the little brother's the one that just kind of says, you know, oh, I want to do it too. Why don't you take me? So he takes him, and then we see, and yeah, it's kind of a big cliche. There's actually a lot of cliches in Backdraft, but it was 1991. Come on.
True.
So naturally, when we get to the fire, we see that the dad is like the ultimate hero. He's the one that can like jump from one fire escape to the other and goes into the burning building and is, you know, the one that all of them look up to. And given that this is a prologue to the story, I wonder what's going to happen to him.
Yeah.
With the little kid right here to see it. But it actually turns into this really, even if it is kind of a cliche, there is something about it that just kind of has a harrowing feel to it, where after the explosion happens and his helmet falls to the ground and the kid picks it up, I like that little touch, where it's not really a little touch, it keeps coming back, but we see this shot and it looks right out of, like it'd be one of those iconic shots that's on the cover of magazines and goes down in history and stuff like that, where we have him crying and he's holding his dad's burned helmet while he's watching the fire happen. And that guy from the photographer runs right up to him and starts taking pictures of this right in front of his face. And he ends up being put on the cover of Life magazine and becoming like a famous image. And then, of course, he grows up to be Billy Baldwin, and the older kid grows up to be Kurt Russell again. The only difference is when Kurt Russell was the dad, they put a mustache on him, so he was all dad-like. So we now see them, and Billy Baldwin has just graduated. But the thing is much as he, just like he wanted to, Kurt Russell has grown up to become like the one that followed in his dad's footsteps and became the ultimate firefighter. And Billy Baldwin ended up being kind of the screw up. And yeah, a lot of this movie is that brotherly rivalry. That's what a lot of it is. And yeah, it's not breaking new ground by any means, but, you know, it's still a solid story, and Russell and Baldwin play it really well and make it convincing. But the thing about it is, this isn't just one of those movies where it's like, oh, this is firefighters and this is what they do, and, you know, they fight fires and everything's great or everything's not great. They have families, etc. There's a side plot where Billy Baldwin has a thing going on with Jennifer Jason Leigh, and Kurt Russell is, I believe, still married to Rebecca De Mornay, but they're separated, and he's trying to work that out, and he's got a son and everything. Which one's going to be the ill-fated one? But there's actually, to kind of shake that up a little bit, they actually throw a real movie-like plot into it about the fact that the fires they're fighting are actually a serial arsonist that has some kind of agenda here, probably, and the main suspect here is this kind of politician, like, you know, wannabe mayor governor guy that is J.T. Walsh. And they spend a lot of the movie building him up, like, oh yeah, it's totally him. He is definitely the guy. This is 100% the villain right here. You always cast J.T. Walsh if you want that guy, I guess.
It's true.
Who's very missed in the industry, by the way. So he's so great on screen, I forget that he's, you know, like, not here anymore. So, yes, and now, to talk about the one thing that everybody remembers Backdraft for, is the effects. There's a really cool, nice introduction by Ron Howard on this DVD before the movie starts. My nice 2-disc, you know, special DVD here. Where he talked about how they had the effects that they were going to do, the fire effects, and they went back and they watched them, and Ron Howard, being the great director he is, had the balls to say, wow, that looks fake as shit. So he went to the effects guy that ended up getting an Oscar nomination later, and said, we're just going to have to use real fire, and we're just going to have to get right in it. Like, can we do that? So it's all real fire. They put the actors right in it. The cinematographer had to wear, like, a fire-retardant suit and go right into the flames. And it's all just feels... A lot of people say it was kind of like, you know... It almost came off like Pyromania a little bit. Mm-hmm. But, I didn't feel it was too excessive. I thought it only acted to make the scenes more exciting and put people right in there. The way a lot of movies don't. So, yes. Now, the cast list. You probably notice if you're looking at this DVD right now, we got quite a cast list on our hands here.
Yeah.
Starting with the star, Kurt Russell is fantastic in this. Because he has to do the thing where he's, you know, the rough, tough guy who, you know, is... You know, he, you know, looks down on his little brother, and he's the one that's, you know, trying to be the macho guy that follows in his father's footsteps. He takes care of his dad's boat. He does all of that. Lives alone. Does all the whole macho thing. But then there are those moments where it's not like that. He never goes into full sensitive mode, but he makes him a real person. Because there are those moments there where, like, he's... Like, those scenes with Billy Baldwin where he's, you know, gotta be, like, the big brother that kind of pushes him to be better and stuff like that. But then he'll go right into that and say, you know, like, what the fuck were you thinking? And then go into, like, you know, being an actual brother to him and bringing that... I don't know. Saying this character has warmth is a little... might be too much, but there's something in there that doesn't make him a caricature of the tough guy. And Russell pulled that off pretty much flawlessly. And then the scenes with, you know, Rebecca De Mornay and the kid, where he has to kind of be, you know, the husband and the father. All of that he just does really well, and it really well balanced too. So I love that he was able to take that. This character really could have just been a cardboard cutout macho guy, but he really added a lot to him and made him really real. So great. Kurt Russell's so underrated all the time. Thank God. He's working with Tarantino again. I can't fucking wait.
Yes.
And Billy Baldwin's good here, too. He's kind of he was like, they were going for the young face here. Like, I think Johnny Depp, like, auditioned for this or something. Mm-hmm. And it was, everybody in that kind of age group was going for it, and Billy Baldwin got it. And, you know, he's fine. He serves the role and then goes home. It's, you know, he doesn't, like, fully stand out or anything, but, you know, he's solid. Jennifer Jason Leigh is kind of the only issue here. She seems really miscast. Because she's kind of just... Another person that's going to be in the same Tarantino movie with Kurt Russell soon. She's basically... When you look at her movies, Fast Time's not included, if you're going to kind of cast that love interest character... where there's really not much else to her except that she's kind of a love interest. Jennifer Jason Leigh's a weird casting choice because she's got a lot more to offer than that.
It's true.
And she's known for kind of being, you know, those offbeat characters, sometimes psychotic characters. That whole casting just kind of seemed off. Like, it's not... You could say... I could see somebody saying she's bad in it, but... I think it all comes back to the casting choice of her, so I don't fully blame her for what that performance was. De Niro. De Niro is the arson investigator that's kind of in charge of them. This was such a relief because putting him in a movie like this that's kind of an ensemble, where you have him on the end of the cast list there, when he's doing really, really well right now. This was when Awakenings had just come out, and Cape Fear was out, and Goodfellas was out. Where he was just really, really rocking it right now. And to kind of put him in this supporting role, your immediate thought would probably be that they just totally waste him. Like, he's just kind of there for name value. But he's got a really good part here, and he's really, really great in it. Like, he's kind of stuck in the, even though this isn't, like, his actual rank or anything, but he's kind of like the, when you watch, like, old cop movies and you have the disapproving chief, that's kind of what the part is on the surface, but he plays it really, really well, and there's a little more to it than that. And his character has a great importance, too, and I believe he's the only character in the movie that's actually a real person. Who actually the guy that he's playing actually has a cameo at the party. So, yeah, a lot of interesting things going on with that character. Finally, I would just like to throw out there Donald Sutherland. He only has 2 scenes, but Donald Sutherland's fucking awesome in this. Donald Sutherland is basically playing the Hannibal Lecter of arsonists. Where, obviously, they know they have an arsonist on their hands here, so they talk to him, and he's on the verge of getting out of prison, or whatever he's in, whatever confined area he's in. I don't know if it's an asylum or a hospital or a prison. I'm not quite sure, but he's locked away for what he did, and you can just tell the way he talks to De Niro, and you could just... It's such a psychotic performance, but a subtly psychotic performance. And I don't think there's ever a moment in this movie where he doesn't have that fucking grin on his face. And then there's the moment where Kurt Russell finally... He's there trying to get, approved to be, put back into society. And, he's being really calm, like, yes, I'm very much ready for society. I think, I've learned my lesson. Everything's great. And then Kurt Russell shows him a burned doll and says, what did you do to the girl that owned this? And he's like, I burned her. And he's like, what did you like to do to old ladies? And burn them. And what do you want to do to the world? Burn it! It's like, okay, you're not going back into society. But they kind of use him as a... he's the one that kind of helps them try to figure out, what the arsonist plan could be and who it could possibly be and all that. Now... There are some issues here. It is a very to be fair, it came out in 1991. There are some moments in this movie that are very, very 90s and dated. One that stands out very much is the montage. There is a very happy montage of them fighting fires while Bruce Hornsby is singing "The Show Goes On." This scene is really, really cheesy.
Yeah.
And very much dated. But at the same time, it's kind of got that early 90s blockbuster scene of Glee. So, you know what, fine. But an issue is, it's very long. It's 2 hours and 18 minutes. And it's got a relatively simple plot for that kind of runtime.
Yeah.
And in the middle there, when they're kind of like, they spend a lot of time just trying to build up J.T. Walsh as the potential arsonist. Even though they build him up so much, you finally get in your head, oh yeah, he's probably not. Because they're building it up way too much. And sure enough, of course. But, you know, there's even one scene with just between him and Jennifer Jason Leigh that lasts for like 20 seconds. And it's just kind of an extra beat in to say, oh, do you still think he's the villain yet? So it does have like a long kind of run of redundancy there for a while, but when the movie's on, it's really, really on. And of course you have Ron Howard behind it, and it's very, very beloved now. It is like an iconic, you know, piece now. Like, also in that introduction, Ron Howard talked about how he seriously cannot walk by a firehouse without being invited in for coffee.
Nice.
Because they're just so proud that he made that movie. And I guess this iconic image of Kurt Russell's silhouette in the fire is the image that's on like firefighter license plates in California. So the movie had a massive impact, and it's very much respected for what it is. And it's kind of like the ultimate movie of this, if you want to put firefighter movies in their own genre. I don't know how many there are, but yeah, it's really made its place in certainly, you know, movie history in this particular area. Then we have Ladder 49, which came out 13 years later, I believe 2004. And it's a little different as far as the story that it's telling. Where, you know, Backdraft was more about kind of getting up close and personal and inside the fires while having kind of the drama, you know, the human drama on the side. Ladder 49 kind of takes the reversed approach. Ladder 49 is more of like a human drama with, you know, firefighting on the side, really. And we begin, and Joaquin Phoenix has just saved a guy's life in a burning building, but then ends up getting himself trapped. And so it's kind of this story we keep cutting back to. The movie's told in flashback because it's him laying in this burning building. Well, they're kind of using strategy to see how they can get him out, and he's just kind of trying to talk to Travolta and try to find a way out, while kind of reliving how he got to this point. Mm. And then we see him from when he started to when he met his wife to just how the whole thing went, all the way up until we come back around. Yeah. And immediately, what I like about it, that Backdraft kind of was a little less strong with, was we meet all the characters immediately, and they kind of, you know, distinguish themselves. Like all the great stuff they do to screw with him when he shows up. Like the first scene where he meets Travolta, and Travolta is not wearing his pants and is acting drunk. And what was really funny was I was actually reading somewhere where the scene was just kind of supposed to be that Travolta was talking to him, but it was Travolta's ad-lib to start drinking while he was talking to him. I thought that was a nice touch. And then we meet, who else in this movie? My God. There are the brothers who are Billy Burke and Balthazar Getty. Then we have Robert Patrick, Morris Chestnut, Jay Hernandez, who comes in later. And they just have that whole kind of hazing process. Like Travolta does that thing, and then they do the makeshift confession, where it's Robert Patrick on the other side doing like an Irish accent. And they try to get him to confess. I love the running joke that nobody falls for the confession thing. Because when, you know, Robert Patrick brings up fornicating. Joaquin kind of says, like, what? And then pulls the curtain to the side. And then later on, they try it with Jay Hernandez, and he confesses that he's gay. And then we see that he knew it was a ruse the whole time. I love that never worked. Nobody fell for the confession. Now, the interesting thing here is a lot of the story is devoted to the love story between him and his wife, who is Jacinda Barrett. Who is really good in this, by the way. But not only is she good in it, but the character is surprisingly well constructed, too. Because when you think firefighter movie / married life movie, you feel like you know exactly what you're in for. She's going to be the wife that says, like, you go to work every day, I don't know when you're going to come home, and when you're here, you're not really here. Sienna Miller in American Sniper.
Yes!
But the thing about it here is, she's actually this really strong, supportive character. And it's more like, as opposed to the, please don't go out and die wife, she's the, I'll stand right by your side wife. And I like how they're able to kind of seamlessly go through time. This movie passes through a decade seamlessly. Mm-hmm. Like, in another movie, you would think, whoa, that was, like, jarring, like, just jumping a decade, but it just does it so smoothly. And the way the story's constructed with cutting back to him in the building and coming back, it all flows really nicely, and it's a really well put together story.
It's great that she did so well in this performance, because from before this, most people only knew her from London's Real World.
The Human Stain as well is another good movie she was in, with Nicole Kidman and Anthony Hopkins.
She's come a long way since reality television, what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And then we have, but the interesting thing about this is, when you first watch this movie, you kind of, especially if you're used to, how visceral Backdraft is, for a while there, Ladder 49 is almost disgustingly happy.
Yeah.
Like, you have you have the song playing, and you have the montages of them, pranking each other, and then putting out fires, and everybody's happy, and everybody's best friends, and he and his girlfriend, she's now becoming his wife, and everything's just so happy, but for the love of God, the movie does not stay that way. They start dropping off immediately. Billy Burke gets killed. Morris Chestnut gets his face burned off. And it just goes, like, it slaps you with reality quick. And everybody's really good here, but the drama scenes really, really come through, and there's a really nice potency to them, mainly thanks to Travolta. Travolta is, like, the real grounding factor in this ensemble, because there are those moments, like, I love the moment after everybody's trying to cope with Billy Burke's death. And they're fighting. Robert Patrick kind of becomes like antagonizes everybody for a while there, and they start fighting. And Travolta has this fantastic scene that could have been, one of those big showy, yelling scenes. But he did it so well. The scene where he comes in and he gives the big thing about I just had to tell a mother that her son's dead, and you're in here fighting in my house. And then there's that moment that really hits, where he just finally calms down and then says, "Did you guys even think to lower the flag?" And nobody did. And that's a really powerful scene. And, it's not, like I said, it doesn't really have that visceral quality that Backdraft does, especially if you watch it right after Backdraft. You'll notice that, as far as the fires are concerned, a lot of the fire scenes are kind of from a distance. Because, you do have a couple scenes where he's right there in it, but a lot of them are kind of, it's almost like the fire's in the background. Or there's the moment where he and the guy are dangling from the outside of the building. Stuff like that. So, if you're a pirate, you'll definitely prefer Backdraft, but Ladder 49 still worked very well, even if it wasn't, they didn't have a cinematographer in a flame retardant suit running right through the flames.
Yeah.
It still worked out pretty well.
Definitely.
However, I will say that, the only thing I would say is Ron Howard is clearly a really accomplished director.
Yeah.
The direction in Ladder 49 isn't all that inspired. It's clear. I don't know what else this guy has done.
I'll tell you.
There are some things that kind of stood out. Like, there's some shots that have slow-mo in them.
Oh, God.
That kind of, made it seem... I thought the slow-mo in Ladder 49 kind of takes away from the drama a little more and kind of waters it down, I thought. Because it felt very, cheesy and, like, the moment where he and Travolta come out, it works very well the second time. It's the closing shot as well. But the first time when he and Travolta come out of the building and they, like, embrace and it goes into slow-mo, I thought, no, okay, that seems a bit 80s movie.
He directed My Dog Skip.
Oh, yeah.
Tuck Everlasting. And The Water Horse.
Oh.
Whole Lot of Soul in 2011. And his last film was One Christmas Eve last year.
My Dog Skip has a lot of really potent drama in it, too. So
yeah.
I can kind of see that. But, that aside, it's really... It does everything great, and I love how character-driven it is. Much more so than Backdraft. And I think also, even though Backdraft is considered like the ultimate firefighter movie, and they all really respect it, they have fucking Kurt Russell on their license plates and everything.
Yeah.
I think Ladder 49 kind of has a better... It's better in showing people how they feel and what they go through and why they do what they do. Travolta's speech at the funeral alone just brings all of that to light.
Yeah. It's pretty powerful, so much so that I actually stood up and applauded after the movie was over, and I've never done this before, and I haven't done it since.
Because, you look at it on the surface, and you think, you have the song playing, and you have the funeral.
Yeah.
In any other... I mean, there's also a great, Kurt Russell's funeral scene in Backdraft is great, too. But when you see it in Ladder 49 with the song playing in that, the first thing that went through my head was... This seems like it should be really, really cheesy, and really, really like, cry. I ain't begging you to cry. But, especially with the way we've gotten to know his character through the whole thing, and everybody not only hit how sad his actual death is, but how it's affecting everybody that's there, too. Because we know all these characters so well now.
Yeah.
It's just a really... moving and heartbreaking scene.
You follow a story for a decade, you have to get invested in the characters.
Like, you wouldn't think it would... I mean, just on the outset, you wouldn't think it would hit that hard.
It does.
But it really does.
Yeah, it does.
So, having said all of this...
Yeah.
Both of these do what they do really well. And like I said, one even has a practically iconic status. And they both pretty much, try to pull off the same thing. But, Ron Howard is Ron Howard, and he is, one of the... I mean, you can say what you will, but Ron Howard is one of the great directors. He's got range like nobody's business. And it's just fantastic. But in line with these two movies, kind of doing the same thing, I think Ladder 49 did it just a little bit better.
I figured you would do that.
So yeah.
It's funny we picked this day because this obviously was done without knowing what was going to happen. News that was going to break this week is the fact that In the Heart of the Sea actually got pushed to December, so it's now has a December release date. He's going for the Oscar. yeah, he is. Totally going for the Oscar again. So yeah.
I really like both of them.
Yeah.
But if I had to choose between the two, I'd probably take Ladder 49.
All right.
I thought it was just a little bit better. It pulled it off.
It's that funeral scene at the end. It's just like it gets you every single time. It's one of the most depressing funeral eulogies you've seen.
I was actually reading Roger Ebert's review. Roger Ebert gave this a rave review and said that the ending saddened him so much that he went outside and sat by the river and just sat there and thought.
I can understand completely.
So, yes, that's what we have here.
Next week, I believe we have some sort of anniversary. Not for us, but a very important anniversary. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be your verses for next week. And that's all I'm going to tell you.
I guess your word would be 100 years.
100 years? Right on. Okay. And then I think the week after that's going to be high school.
Yes.
Yeah,
I got pushed because of this.
You got pushed because of this anniversary. So yeah. Got that coming very soon. Brand new verses. Tomorrow, Celebrity Apprentice. That was a fun video. Did that. And that's going to be up for you guys to watch tomorrow. We have, obviously, Tuesday, NXT and Impact. We have Wednesday for the Vlog of Randomness. Thursday, Sip and Snack. Friday, AJ's Movie Reviews. Saturday, Gaming with Ash. And back to Sunday for next week's Versus. And we got the BAFTAs coming up Sunday night. Good God. We're almost at the end of award season, sir. what will we do with our time? Watch more movies to get prepared for next year. So that being said, thank you guys and girls out there for watching. If you have ideas for verses, we do accept our ideas for verses. We've had a lot of them from you guys and girls out there, so we very much appreciate that. If you have ideas for verses, you can send me an email, sirowendisney@gmail.com. You can contact me via Facebook at Owen Disney, or if you'd like to get a hold of me on Twitter, it's at @sirowendisney. So you can send us ideas for verses. If you have ideas for Sip and Snack at the Blog of Randomness, you can do that as well. Or you become a podcaster yourself, you can use those avenues in order to get a hold of us. So that being said, thank you guys and girls out there for watching once again. And AJ, any parting words?
That's it.